Okay, round one is over. Let's say that Janet Yellen won. So great, she gets 1 point for Janet Yellen. They're keeping track of their score on a separate piece of paper, and they know that they won. All right, now everyone moves on to District 11. All right, in this case, everyone moves on to District 11, and we do it over again. All right, so somebody picks up a new card, and it says, Scenario H. They would write down H. Unemployment is 15%, inflation rate is -2%, the real GDP is plummeting, citizens are worried that there will be a total economic collapse, and banks are requesting money to avoid bank runs. All right, the Fedexes want to change the total money supply as much as possible to improve the economy. Students know what to do. They know that they want to decrease the discount rate, they want to decrease the reserve requirement, or the Fed wants to buy bonds. They understand the concept, but again, it's not up to them. It's up to the randomness of the computer. So again, each student individually clicks on each one of these little spinning wheels, and they keep track of what it says. In this case, I have an increase in the reserve requirement. I have a reserve requirement of 0.25 and then a $40 initial change. So in this case, an increase in the reserve requirement would decrease the money supply, the total money supply. The multiplier is 4, and 4 times 40 is $160 decrease in money supply, which actually does not help the economy. We want to increase the money supply. We want to increase the money supply, lowering interest rates, so I'm actually making things worse. So I am not going to earn this point. I'm not going to get it. So in this one, I report to the group. Everyone reports to the group. In the instructions, actually right here, it says, moving clockwise from the player who read the card. You know, it's important to keep in mind that there's kind of an incentive to cheat if you know what everybody else has, right? So if you have the first person go every single time and I report and then you report and they report and just keeps doing like that, it's not particularly fair. So basically, whoever has the card going clockwise from there, they report it. So I got increase in 20, I got decrease in 40, I got a decrease in 160, and I come up, I say I had an increase in 160, right? Let's just say that I got an increase in 160, and I'm lying, and I'm covering my paper, I'm lying, and I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, and no one calls fraud? Cool, all right, Jacob wins. And I don't have to tell him I was doing fraud, and I get 1 point for me. Again, 1 point for whoever wins, and then we just keep playing it from there. Next person picks up a card, they each individually hit their computer, they do it, they write down their scores, they write down their total change, and they can lie or not lie. Now again, if someone caught me and said, you lied, then I would not be able to move forward. So let's say that I was Paul Volcker, everyone else moves on to Kansas City, and I stay here in Dallas. Again, it's hard to keep students, you know, this obviously is a pretty small area to keep track of where they all are, and that's okay. The students just keep track of where they are. But basically, I'm Paul Volcker, I have a harder time over to get to 1. The only way to get to 1 first, if at some point I got caught in my lie, is to catch other people in lie, and now they're with me as well as we progress through, okay? I hope this is making sense. Does it make sense? Does this sound even fun to play? Are you excited about this? Let me know in the comments below or email me, because the biggest problem I have right now by not being in the classroom is I can't run these activities. I always love coming with new ideas, and I'm going to try something new, and I don't know what to do with. So basically, try it out. Let me know if this is working for you and for your students. Before we go anywhere, let's finish it off. Let's say you filled out this whole thing, and eventually, let's say Janet Yellen got to Boston and through Boston first. She gets an additional 3 points on top of all her other points. Students add up all the points that they earned in all these different rounds, and then finally you add up the 3 points that whoever got through Boston the fastest. It doesn't matter where the other people are. If they're still on at Richmond and Cleveland or in New York and they never got to Boston, that's fine, but they don't get those 3 points. If you have 2 people who got through Boston at the same time, then they both get 3 points. So that 3 points is basically for either not getting called out in lies. I mean, that's really all it is. It's just either don't lie the entire time, or don't do fraud the entire time, or don't lie the entire time, or get called out less than other people, or don't get called out for doing fraud. So students have to make kind of a cost-benefit analysis whether it's worth lying to the group to be able to move forward, and get faster there, but at the same time potentially getting slowed down by getting called out on it. So that's kind of the strategy of the game. In fact, the game itself has very, very little strategy. It's all up to chance and what those spinning different wheels tell you. That's pretty much what the game is. But adding in this whole fraud thing allows for some deception and some bluffing, and that sort of stuff makes it a little more strategy, makes it a little more fun like an actual game. The other version, where you don't allow lying and don't allow students to call fraud to do that kind of thing, is still good, and it'll make the game go a little faster, but basically it's just complete random stuff. I also include on the PDF, if you didn't already see it, I have these. I made some cubes that you can do kind of like dice, and the students can actually like roll the dice for these different things. I have it for the Fed action and the reserve requirement, and the initial change, you can just make that on your own, or you grab something online, or just regular dice. 1 through 6 is 10 through $20, $30, $40, $50, $60. But basically, I threw out the idea of doing this with dice. In fact, I actually bought some dice. I thought this would be really fun, but the more I thought about it, it'd be better just to have this digital. So I like the spinning wheels a little better. But I have this for you. The only problem with this is that it actually takes a lot of time to make these. So I'd hate to waste class time where students cutting out, the paper to actually make this, they glue it all together, and then we run the activity. And really we just, spent 10 minutes getting our resources together as opposed to actually learning and practicing economics. But if you're super crazy, you could try something like this. I went and bought dice. These were blank dice I found online, super duper cheap. And then I made these stickers on, I think, Vistaprint, super cheap Vistaprint stickers. Basically, you cut these out and you can stick them on to these dice, so you can make dice for each one of the groups. Now, the problem with this one is you're going to make a boatload of these, right? Each student is going to need 3 dice to run this activity the way that I have it organized, but you could maybe adjust it or do things from there. But there's another option if you wanted to. It is kind of cool for students to have this. The best part about it, and this is the key, and this is why I'm trying to bring this up, the cool thing about the dice and using dice is it helps students remember, because a student, it's easy for them to keep in mind, like, gosh, there's so many different things the Fed can do. Well, no, dude, there's 6 of them. There's only 6 sides to dice, and there's only 6 things the Fed can do. The Fed can either buy bonds or they can sell bonds. Right? The Fed can increase the reserve requirement or they can decrease the reserve requirement. They can increase the discount rate or they can decrease the discount rate. So only 6 different things the Fed can do. That's why I like the 6 sides of a 6-side dice. Also, I like students to understand that although it's not realistic at all to real life, that there's really only a few reserve requirements that a test, and particularly the AP test, is going to ask them, because those are the ones that are easy to calculate. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.25, 0.5, those are the easy ones to calculate that we get a nice, easy, simple multiplier. The only weird one that I put was 0.8, because the multiplier ends up being 1.25, which is, a little weird for students to calculate, but that's the only one that's weird. I also put in there a reserve requirement of 1, which means that banks don't loan out anything. They've got to hold it all in reserves. Obviously not very realistic, but I needed 6 of them for the game in case you're doing it with dice. So that's what I did that for us, if you're wondering. By the way, if you don't like that, you're like, oh, that's not very realistic. Well, none of them are realistic, because the multiplier right now is actually less than 1. I think the multiplier today right now is like 0.98. So there's really, banks are holding so much in excess reserves, it's not really, causing the money multiplier effect to happen. So anyways, none of this is realistic, and that's my point. None of this is like, wow, this is how the Fed works. They get old Fed chairs to come in and travel through the country and decide what to do in the economy, and it's so simple. All the Fed has to do is look at these cards and here's where the economy is and here's what we should do. It's totally not that simple, but this is a game, an academic game to get students to learn kind of a concept. So that's why I made it so simple. And one more thing, if you wanted to slow this game down significantly, what you could do is have only the students that get a point progress to the next district. So if Janet Yellen won in District 12, then she moves on to 11, and everyone keeps playing. Each round, everyone's dealing with the same economic issue, but they are all progressing only after you get a point. That would slow this down significantly. In fact, by the way, I want to point out, I have no idea how long this will take. I'm assuming it'll take about 30 minutes to run with the lying component in there. If the students, have their computers and they're going pretty quick through the game, I think 30 minutes would work. Do me a favor though, let me know in the comments below how long it took for you to run this activity with your students, not including prep time. Like if you have the students make this, don't include that time in there. I mean, when you start the activity, How long does it take to run? And give me any other feedback and any other tips. This is an untested activity, right? I have not run this with students. I thought about this over the summer. I thought, it'd be a fun way to introduce these ideas to students. So I have not ran this with students, although I bet, and that's why I'm in the video, I bet it's gonna work. And it's time for you to tell me if it does. So anyways, thank you so much for watching my videos. Keep in mind, this YouTube channel is not my main channel. This is the one that's only designed for teachers. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now, please. And also make sure to show my introductory video to your students so they can see how to play this entire game, okay? Thanks for watching. Until next time.